Hello, welcome back to the New England All Model Railway. In this video, we'll be reviewing this Hornby Castle class. The reason why we're on the turntable because when I purchased this model a couple of years ago, it did not came with a box. So instead of having a model where I would usually start the review, I thought it'd be an excellent idea to go straight to the turntable. I purchased this model at Lord and Butler for a price of £50, which is quite excellently valued for a model of its type, and it's fairly detailed considering the age. Now we'll just go a little bit closer so we can see that fine detail up close and personal. And here we are, a little bit closer to the Hornby Castle, and we begin with the application of the livery of this locomotive, and it is applied beautifully on this model. The lining, this is just a beauty for the eyes. The lining is no fault at all, and we're talking about a pretty old model here. The steam cylinder, the wheels. This one's known as Winchester Castle. The nameplate has been made beautifully here, as well as the lining around it, the cab. This model has received a little bit of modification by its previous owner because there's residue on the buffer beam of possible little lights put on the front end of its locomotive, probably to show that it was an express locomotive. As well as that, in the cab area, the previous owner has actually put in a fireman and a driver. It's just little details like that just makes it even more special. You go to the front end of the locomotive, the smoke box number, the cylinders, the brake pipes. Yes, this model does not have spun buffers, but that's not really much to worry about, considering I only paid £50 for this locomotive. It's quite amazingly detailed. The whistles, I know there's supposed to be something behind the whistles, but they are metal, turned metal, and that just is basically. But it is an old model. It has glazing, which is quite nice. Now we go over to the tender. Lining applied beautifully. The British Railway insignia is beautifully represented here. And if we go to the top of the tender, which the previous owner has put in his own coal load, and it's nicely applied. You see residue where he probably had the fireman put that so he could look like he's putting coal in the tender. I haven't bothered moving anyone on the locomotive since I purchased it. Go to the back end of the tender, the handrails. They're all part of molding, but hey, it's a beautiful model at the end of the day. And for such an incredible price, can't really say no. I'm just trying to angle the locomotive so you could see the driver. Yes, the previous owner did not detail the crew members, making it a little bit more difficult to show them off. But the effort of the extra details on this model are worth putting in the effort to show off. Uh, I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the castle class. Since I began playing on Train Simulator, that's how I discovered the castle class myself. And being honest, seeing him up close and personal at Didcot, as well as seeing him in Steam, it is an amazing sight. But back to the model, and it is very beautifully applied. Everything, the details, the livery, the lining, the safety, the bonnet. Yeah. Now, we talk about the history of the castle class. The Great Western Castle class was designed by Charles Collett, built between 1923 and 1950, with a total of 171 locomotives built. Based off previous locomotives such as the Star class with an improved boiler, allowed the locomotive to reach up to speeds of 100 miles an hour. Because of that, it became Britain's most powerful locomotive, despite the fact that it wasn't the largest locomotive in Britain. It was known for hauling express passenger services such as the Cheltenham Flyer and the Cornish Riviera, where the locomotive excelled at, and it was very popular with its crews. They performed their tasks beautifully right up until the 1950s, where withdrawals began, from May 1950 to December 1965. All but 8 locomotives was withdrawn and scrapped. With the 8 locomotives in preservation, in my opinion, is a fair number, and they are a sight to behold seeing them on the main line. If you get a chance to see a castle class going on a mainline rail tour or just seeing one at Didcot Railway Centre, it is worthwhile visiting. Now we'll go to the track and see how Winchester Castle performs. Here it is, the Hornby Castle, Winchester Castle, ready to show us what it's made of. For this running session, I thought it would be a perfect idea to run with some Great Western 460 locomotives. So what Winchester Castle's pulling is these classic blood and custard coaches. There is an actual Hornby train set which has one of these castles with a set of these blood and custard coaches available for those who are interested. Running with Winchester Castle is Helmingham Hall, which is a Hornby Hall class, and she has some traditional chocolate and cream coaches. As well as that, we have Dinmore Manor, which is a Batman Manor class with also Great Western chocolate and cream coaches. This should be a pretty fun running session indeed. Now it's time to let these great Western locomotives show us how beautiful they are. Another splendid running session has ended. I would heavily recommend anyone into buying the Hornby Castle class. It is a superb runner, excellent on detail, and would be an excellent addition to anyone who is a fan of the Great Western Railway. For those who just like the castle but on its own merits, or ain't a fan of the Great Western Railway, it is still an excellent addition to anyone's railway collection. It is just a superb locomotive, and one of my personal favourites. That concludes my review of the Hornby Castle. If you liked the video, please like and share, and subscribe to the Lone Ranger Motoring channel. Please leave any comments which you think that so I could improve my video making skills for future reviews. I do read your comments, and I will. My brother is happy to answer your questions or anything you'd like to know. Until the next time, see ya.